Yes, both fire alarm panels and annunciator panels are defined as equipment in the National Electrical Code, or NEC. Equipment is a general term including material, fittings, devices, appliances, fixtures, apparatus, and the like used as a part of, or in connection with, an electrical installation. NEC Section 110.26 specifically addresses working space around equipment. This section applies to all electrical equipment, including fire alarm panels and annunciator panels. The working space around equipment is required to provide sufficient access and working clearances for maintenance and servicing. The specific requirements for working space vary depending on the type of equipment and its location. Fire alarm panels are typically located in a central location for easy monitoring and access. Annunciator panels are located in various areas throughout a building to provide audible and visual alarms. The working space around fire alarm and annunciator panels should be maintained clear of obstructions and combustibles. Regularly scheduled inspections and testing of fire alarm and annunciator panels are required to ensure proper operation. To elaborate on Section 110.26 of the NEC, which is crucial for understanding the working space requirements around electrical equipment, including fire alarm panels and annunciator panels, let's delve into its key provisions. Section 110.26, titled Spaces about Electrical Equipment, is designed to ensure the safety of personnel who may be working on or near electrical equipment while it is energized. It mandates specific clearances and working spaces to allow for safe operation, maintenance, and inspection. The first key aspect of 110.26 is the requirement for sufficient access and working space. This means that the area around electrical equipment must be large enough to allow personnel to safely approach, access, and perform necessary tasks without being unduly hindered or exposed to hazards. The specific dimensions of the required working space depend on several factors, including the voltage of the equipment, the location of the equipment, and the presence of any exposed live parts. Generally, higher voltage equipment requires greater working space. The NEC provides tables such as Table 110.26 A1, which specify the minimum cleared distances required for different voltage levels and configurations. These tables outline the minimum depth of the working space in front of the equipment, as well as the minimum width and height. The depth of the working space is measured from the front of the equipment to any obstruction, such as a wall or another piece of equipment. The width of the working space must be at least 30 inches, or the width of the equipment, whichever is greater. The height of the working space must be at least 6 feet 6 inches, or the height of the equipment, whichever is greater. It's important to note that these are minimum requirements, and in some cases, a larger working space may be necessary to ensure safety. The location of the equipment also affects the working space requirements. For example, if the equipment is located in a narrow aisle or passageway, the working space may need to be increased to allow for safe passage. Similarly, if the equipment is located near a doorway or other opening, the working space may need to be arranged to prevent accidental contact with energized parts. Another important consideration is the presence of any exposed live parts. If the equipment has exposed live parts operating at 50 volts or more to ground, additional precautions must be taken to protect personnel from electric shock. This may include the use of barriers, enclosures, or insulated tools. In addition to the minimum clearances specified in the NEC, it's also important to maintain a clear and unobstructed working space around electrical equipment. This means that the area should be free of any materials, tools, or other objects that could impede access or create a hazard. Combustible material should be kept away from electrical equipment to prevent fires. Fire alarm panels and annunciator panels are subject to these working space requirements, just like any other piece of electrical equipment. This means that there must be sufficient clear space around the panels to allow for safe access, maintenance, and inspection. The specific working space requirements for fire alarm panels and annunciator panels will depend on the voltage of the equipment and its location. However, as a general rule, it's a good idea to provide at least 3 feet of clear space in front of the panels and at least 30 inches of clear space on either side. The working space should also be well lit to allow for easy visibility. In addition to the working space requirements, there are also other NEC requirements that apply to fire alarm panels and annunciator panels. For example, Section 760 covers the installation of fire alarm systems, and it includes requirements for wiring methods, overcurrent protection, and grounding. Section 760.41 states that fire alarm circuits must be electrically supervised to ensure that they are operational. This means that the circuits must be monitored for opens, shorts, and grounds. If a fault is detected, the fire alarm system must be able to initiate an alarm. Annunciator panels are visual displays that provide information about the status of the fire alarm system. They typically indicate the location of the alarm, as well as other important information, such as the type of alarm and the time it occurred. Annunciator panels are required to be located in a conspicuous location where they can be easily seen by building occupants. They must also be clearly labeled to indicate their purpose. Proper maintenance of fire alarm panels and annunciator panels is essential to ensure their reliable operation. Regularly scheduled inspections and testing should be performed to identify any potential problems. The batteries in the fire alarm system should be tested regularly to ensure that they are capable of providing backup power in the event of a power outage. The wiring and connections should be inspected for any signs of damage or corrosion. Any problems that are identified should be corrected promptly. In addition to the NEC requirements, there may also be local codes and regulations that apply to fire alarm systems and annunciator panels. It's important to check with the local authorities to determine what requirements apply in your area. It is always a good idea to consult with a qualified electrician or fire alarm technician to ensure that your fire alarm system is installed and maintained in accordance with all applicable codes and regulations. The working space around electrical equipment, as mandated by NEC Section 110.26, is not merely a suggestion but a critical safety measure designed to protect individuals working on or near energized electrical systems. The dimensions of the working space, as detailed in tables like 110.26 A1, are meticulously calculated to provide adequate room for movement, visibility, and safe operation. These dimensions vary based on voltage levels and equipment configurations, emphasizing the importance of understanding the specific requirements for each installation. Maintaining a clear and unobstructed working space is equally crucial. Obstructions, such as stored materials or tools, can impede access to equipment, increasing the risk of accidents and hindering emergency repairs. Combustible materials pose a fire hazard and should be kept away from electrical equipment at all times. Proper lighting is also essential to ensure clear visibility and reduce the likelihood of errors. Fire alarm panels and annunciator panels, as integral components of a building's fire safety system, are subject to the same working space requirements as other electrical equipment. These panels often require regular maintenance, testing, and troubleshooting, making adequate working space essential for technicians to perform their duties safely and efficiently. In addition to the working space requirements outlined in Section 110.26, the NEC includes other provisions that specifically address fire alarm systems. Section 760, for example, covers the installation of fire alarm circuits, including requirements for wiring methods, overcurrent protection, and grounding. These requirements are designed to ensure the reliability and safety of fire alarm systems, which are critical for protecting lives and property. One of the key requirements of Section 760 is that fire alarm circuits must be electrically supervised. This means that the circuits must be monitored for opens, shorts, and grounds, and that the fire alarm system must be able to initiate an alarm if a fault is detected. Electrical supervision is essential to ensure that the fire alarm system is always operational and capable of responding to a fire emergency. Annunciator panels, which provide visual displays of fire alarm system status, also play a crucial role in fire safety. These panels typically indicate the location of the alarm, the type of alarm, and the time it occurred. Annunciator panels must be located in conspicuous locations where they can be easily seen by building occupants, and they must be clearly labeled to indicate their purpose. Regular maintenance and testing of fire alarm panels and annunciator panels are essential to ensure their reliable operation. Batteries should be tested regularly to ensure that they are capable of providing backup power in the event of a power outage, and wiring and connections should be inspected for any signs of damage or corrosion. Any problems that are identified should be corrected promptly to prevent system failures. The NEC is a comprehensive set of standards that governs the safe installation and maintenance of electrical systems. While it provides detailed requirements for working space around electrical equipment, fire alarm systems, and other electrical installations, it is not a substitute for sound engineering, judgment, and careful workmanship. It is essential to consult with qualified electricians and fire alarm technicians to ensure that all electrical work is performed in accordance with the NEC and other applicable codes and regulations. In addition to the NEC, other codes and standards may apply to fire alarm systems, such as those promulgated by the National Fire Protection Association, or NFPA. NFPA 72, the National Fire Alarm and Signaling Code, provides requirements for the design, installation, testing, and maintenance of fire alarm systems. It is important to be familiar with both the NEC and NFPA 72 when working with fire alarm systems. Furthermore, local codes and regulations may also apply to fire alarm systems. These codes and regulations may vary from jurisdiction to jurisdiction, so it is essential to check with the local authorities to determine what requirements apply in your area. Compliance with all applicable codes and regulations is essential to ensure the safety and reliability of fire alarm systems. Understanding the NEC definition of equipment is fundamental to applying the code correctly. The term equipment is broadly defined to encompass a wide range of electrical components and systems. This broad definition ensures that the NEC safety requirements apply to all aspects of an electrical installation. Fire alarm panels and annunciator panels clearly fall within this definition, as they are integral parts of an electrical system used for fire detection and alarm signaling. The NEC emphasis on working space around equipment reflects a commitment to worker safety. Electrical work can be hazardous, and providing adequate working space is essential to minimize the risk of electrical shock, arc flash, and other injuries. The specific dimensions of the required working space are based on voltage levels, equipment configurations, and other factors that affect the potential for electrical hazards. Maintaining a clear and unobstructed working space is also crucial for preventing accidents. Obstructions can impede access to equipment, making it difficult to perform maintenance and repairs safely. Combustible materials can create a fire hazard, and proper lighting is essential for ensuring clear visibility. Fire alarm systems play a critical role in protecting lives and property, and their reliable operation is essential. Regular maintenance and testing are necessary to ensure that fire alarm systems are functioning properly and that they are capable of responding to a fire emergency. The NEC requirements for fire alarm systems are designed to ensure that these systems are installed and maintained in a safe and reliable manner. Compliance with the NEC and other applicable codes and regulations is essential for ensuring the safety of buildings and their occupants. By following these codes and regulations, we can minimize the risk of electrical hazards and ensure that fire alarm systems are functioning properly. To further clarify the working space requirements around electrical equipment, consider the specific dimensions outlined in NEC Table 110.26. A1. This table provides minimum clear distances for working spaces based on voltage to ground and the presence of exposed live parts or obstructions. For example, for equipment operating at 150 volts to ground, the minimum clear distance is typically 3 feet where there are exposed live parts on one side and grounded parts on the other side, or where there are exposed live parts on both sides. This distance increases for higher voltage levels. It is important to note that these are minimum requirements, and in some cases, a larger working space may be necessary to ensure safety. Factors such as the complexity of the equipment, the frequency of maintenance, and the presence of other hazards should be considered when determining the appropriate working space. The NEC also addresses the location of electrical equipment in relation to other objects and structures. For example, Section 110.26 E requires that working space not be used for storage. This requirement is intended to prevent obstructions from impeding access to equipment and creating a safety hazard. Similarly, Section 110.26 F requires that equipment be located in a dry location unless it is specifically designed for wet locations. This requirement is intended to prevent electrical shock hazards and equipment damage. In addition to the NEC requirements for working space, there are also other safety precautions that should be taken when working on or near electrical equipment. These precautions include wearing appropriate personal protective equipment, such as insulated gloves and safety glasses, using insulated tools, and energizing equipment before working on it whenever possible. Following these safety precautions can significantly reduce the risk of electrical accidents. The NEC is not a static document. It is updated every 3 years to reflect changes in technology, industry practices, and safety standards. It is important to stay up to date on the latest edition of the NEC to ensure that your electrical work is in compliance with current requirements. The NEC is a valuable resource for electricians, engineers, inspectors, and anyone else who is involved in the design, installation, and maintenance of electrical systems. By understanding and applying the NEC requirements, we can create safer and more reliable electrical installations. When dealing with fire alarm panels and annunciator panels, it's also crucial to consider the specific requirements outlined in NFPA 72, the National Fire Alarm and Signaling Code. NFPA 72 provides detailed guidance on the design, installation, testing, inspection, and maintenance of fire alarm systems. It covers a wide range of topics, including system performance, equipment requirements, and signaling protocols. One of the key aspects of NFPA 72 is the requirement for regular testing and inspection of fire alarm systems. These tests and inspections are intended to verify that the system is functioning properly and that it is capable of responding to a fire or emergency. The frequency of testing and inspection varies depending on the type of system and the occupancy of the building. NFPA 72 also includes requirements for the documentation of fire alarm systems. This documentation should include information about the system design, installation, testing, and maintenance. Proper documentation is essential for ensuring that the system can be properly maintained and that any problems can be quickly identified and corrected. The combination of the NEC requirements for working space and NFPA 72's requirements for fire alarm systems provides a comprehensive framework for ensuring the safety and reliability of these critical systems. By following these codes and standards, we can protect lives and property from the devastating effects of fire.